Hey, it's Aaron, and today I'm doing an interior walkthrough of a 2022 Lexus NX. This model in particular is the 450h with the F Sport package. The NX is completely new this year. It was totally redone with a much better looking body and a bigger interior, and just a lot of maturity is the word I've been using for this versus the previous generation, the first generation. So there's a lot to walk through on this, so it's going to take a little time. There's a lot of nuances and some kind of slight annoyances going on in here, but I'll go over those, and yeah, so let's get started. We'll go to the usual place and run from there. Today's review is brought to you by the Ronnie James Dio Stand Up and Shout Cancer Fund. You can donate at the link below. So starting over here, you see the windows right here. Door locks here, window lock right there. This is the side mirrors. You select them and move them around. You can set the folding to auto. That's what that button's for. Or you can manually fold them right there. Seat memory right here. Now the first of the big differences here, door handle. Instinctively you want to pull this out, right, to open it up, but that won't do any good. What that does is locks the door. Now, if there is a battery failure, this will physically open the door when you pull it twice, right, like that. But normally, to get in and out of this, all you have to do is push this and open the door. So that's it, pretty simple. Down here you have some drink storage. Over here, I moved kind of fast, sorry there. Over here you have a fuel opening. Now this is a plug-in hybrid, so you do have two fuel ports. The electric port, you just push the door on it and it pops open. So the fuel is on the left side of this car, electric port for charging is on the right, and then this opens the rear deck. Up here, next to the vent here, is the dimmer and odometer trip buttons. These used to be a little dongle thing, if you remember, so that's changed pretty nicely. Otherwise, there really isn't anything to look at over there. So we go to the steering wheel. Now we're gonna have to spend some time here because this is a little bit annoying and complicated. Over here you have the mostly what you're going to be using to control infotainment right here, and also voice activation. Then you have physical volume controls here, and you have a menu button here. The menu button goes through the infotainment menus largely for the source for where your audio is coming from, but you can do a few other things. So there are no labels on these. What it does is it pops up the head-up display when you touch it. So if I let go, it goes away, I touch it, it comes back, it tells you where your thumb is. So when your thumb is on one of those buttons and then you push it, it activates it. So that's basically where you're going to be doing everything, is on your HUD. That's kind of a good thing. Mostly it's annoying. It took me a minute to figure out, actually, because I was waiting for it to come up here or something, but nothing happened. Now, over here on this side, you have mostly cruise control stuff. So you have your cruise control on and off here. Lane keeping comes on with it automatically. You can turn it off down here. This goes through driver information screen menus. So you can do things like turn off automatic rain sensing on the wipers, all that kind of stuff. There's tons of it. And then these do the same those did, but for cruise control up here. But right now, since I don't have cruise control active, I'm actually in a menu screen. See, and what I'm actually controlling here is the head-up display itself. So I can do brightness and the brightness there, and I can go into different modes, tell it what I want it to show, and then if I really want, I can touch these buttons right here, and I got that going on, right? So that's what this is when the cruise control is on, which I don't think it will do when it's stopped. Yeah, it does. So now I can set modes, and then if I set the cruise control, these turn into speed changes. So it's a neat little system, but it takes a little while to get used to that. That's kind of the downer. Yeah, pedal shifting, because every car is in NASCAR now. Actually, it's just because of the F-Sport package. And then we'll just start on this side instead of the other. Over here, you have your washer, wipers, and so forth. This end one runs the rear window. This is the control for speed for both. And then you can see up and down what it does according to this. Pull it towards you to mist the front window, push it back to mist the back window. Over here, you have the signal turns up and down. You have lighting control. You can see it's on auto. You can do markers and whatnot right there. This is for fog lamps right here. And then brights back and forth like you would normally do. Automatic brights are this button right here. So pretty neat. The dongles are pretty easy to use. They're like everybody else's, so there's no confusion. Now looking at the cluster, it's all electronic. So the glass is way back here and it's convex, but it's all electronic, so you never have any glare off of it. This is pretty much the standard screen that you're going to be seeing most of the time. Here's your battery charge state. So it shows you how much battery you have. You can see this is full. And then also when you're driving, this shows you the regeneration amounts. And it shows, this up here shows you the amount that you're using in terms of your tachometer, but also energy usage. So this will change color to show how green you're being in your driving. Then you can see what's going on down here. This stuff can all change when you fiddle with the menu system that I showed you, but this will always be somewhere on this screen because unless you change it to be a dial, which you can do. Here's your gear, and then here's stuff that's going to change according to how you've set it. But this is sort of like the default, and it's probably the most useful, just so you can watch your own fuel economy. Over here shows you what state you're in. Right now we are running in EV mode because we're just parked and nothing's actually happening. Over here is your fuel. So you can see I've used a fair amount. I did a pretty good drive. Also, the tank in this is fairly small. I don't know the actual size, but I'm guessing it's probably not much more than 7 gallons. It's probably 7 to 8 gallons. So the fuel tank is relatively small, but if you're driving this like most people will, you're probably not going to use fuel most of the time when you're commuting or just driving around because you have between 35 and 40 miles of electric driving. I've been getting around 37 when I'm just driving in town on the electric system. So most of the time, most people will not be using fuel unless you're heating the cabin or running the air conditioning at full blast. So yeah, that's a really good thing. It's a very, very nice setup, and the price tag on this isn't terrible. I'm not going to show you the full Monroney because I did that in the walk around, but price as this is all told with delivery is about $62,000. So going over here, there's your push button start. It's way up here instead of, down in here, but that's fine. It's easy to see what it is, so you don't ever miss it. Now, the infotainment screen. Hi, other camera. The infotainment screen is huge. Huge. And it doesn't have like a home button or anything. What you're looking at is kind of like the default screen. This is what you get when you first turn it on. After this, yeah. If you saw my review of the interior of the Tundra, you've seen this screen before. It's similar. So, yeah, these buttons over here aren't always there, but are usually there. I've turned the radio off, so that's turned off down here. These climate setups, these are always here. And then these dials are physical, so that's how you change the temperature. And then I turned the fan off right here so that it's not blowing into the mic on this. But for the most part, I mean, I'm really not terribly impressed with Toyota's new infotainment. It's not intuitive. Nothing about it is intuitive, so I'm just not terribly impressed with it. That's all I got to say. Yeah, like I said, there's no home button, so nothing. Now down here you have physical buttons required by law. So you have your front defrost. Here's your rear defrost, which also in this model defrosts the side mirrors, and then of course your volume control physical button. Thank you, Lord of Lexus, for keeping that. Down here you got Duke's lights. This turns these two vents on and off. These are really aggressive little vents. They don't look like much, but holy crap, these push out a lot of air. Then down here you have your drive mode selector. Not a whole lot of difference between the different drive modes. There is a little bit when you go into Sport and Sport Plus, because this is the F Sport model, so that does change, you know, a few things for the better if you're into sporty driving. But if you're buying this as a plug-in hybrid, why are you worrying about a sport mode? You don't need it, honestly. If you drive around in the regular modes, you're perfectly fine. This is not a slouch. It's not in a hurry, but it's not a slouch. It's a great car. It drives just fine as is. Down here, you got this questionable cubby for keeping nothing because it's hard plastic. It's just going to slide out. Then you have USB ports here. There's a C and an A. Then you have wireless charging right here. This is not standard, but it pretty much is because every package has an option for it at least. And then underneath that, you have this storage bin here, which is good size for, you know, an iPod, your phone, your extra phone or something if you use an old phone as your music player. There's a 12-volt plug in here, and it's just a little, you know, you could throw some keys or your garage door remote, whatever, go in there. And then here you have drink holders, good size drink holders, usable. Here's the shifter. Now the shifter takes a second to get used to because it's really small, so I'm expecting to physically have to move it around, but you don't. You put my foot on the brake, and if I do this, I'm in drive. I do that, I'm in reverse. I do that, I'm parked. I mean, how super simple can it be, right? If you want neutral, let me see if I can get it to go into neutral. Well, you got to have like there you go, really light touch. So it takes a minute. If you're going through like a automated car wash, getting into neutral takes a little practice. So then you got some buttons down here. Traction control on and off, launch control here for hill hold. Over here you can force EV mode or not. This forces it. This goes into automatic EV mode, or you can hold charge with this. So you push it once to EV mode, push it twice to keep the charge for later. Then you have this. Honestly, you don't really need to do it because it kind of does it on its own, but it is a good idea to turn off the EV mode if you're going on like the highway, because it's going to suck up your juice really quick. And then over here you have your terrain select, which is interesting because this is not really an off-road vehicle, but it has enough capability for light off-road, basically dirt road use. Then you have your parking brake, push down to release, pull up to set. Decent little storage bin here, pretty good size for the size of the vehicle. Then you have this. The red is the F Sport. The seats themselves are the F Sport with this beautiful bolstering. Really well done. The F Sport package to me is probably worth it just for these seats. Besides all the cool red accenting. And then you can see what's going on with the door and some pretty cool accenting over there. And just the overall design. This is actually soft plastic. It's kind of rubberized. So beautiful interior, very quiet on the highway. I was surprised how quiet it is. Back seats in the walk around, I sat in the back seats and talked about them. The back seats are really good. Surprisingly large and roomy for the size of this vehicle, especially in headroom. So that's kind of a cool thing, right? So great back seats. The cargo area is a weak point. It's not as big as a lot of rivals. It's adequate, but it's not huge. The rear seats fold forward. They're mostly flat, but you have to come around to the door to do it. You can't do it from the back. There's no like lever. Also kind of an oversight, I think, because that's becoming pretty standard across the board now. It's raining. It's been raining off and on. Anyway, overall, my impression of this car is I really like it. It's really pretty, looks really good, has a very smart interior, very nicely done. Couple of little quirks that take a minute to get used to, things that, you know, might be annoyances. But for the most part, those things, you get over them. It doesn't take too long to get used to it. So wonderful, wonderful, yeah, great update to this. Toyota, well, Lexus, they really did a good job of taking what was kind of an entry-level, almost cheap feeling vehicle and with the tight, cozy cabin that it had in the previous generation, and kind of growing it up a little bit to make it much more daily usable and comfortable and luxurious. So the best thing I can point out about this car, though, is the drive. It's just so smooth, and it's always competent. It's never in a hurry, and it's not a, it's not a sports car. It doesn't handle like a sports car, but it's smooth and competent. Very, very well done. So a lot of that goes to the electrics. I don't think it's going to be the same if you get the 350 with just the gas engine. So there you go. That's it. That's the interior walkthrough for the 2022 Lexus NX. This time in the 450h Plus model with the F Sport package. That's all I got. This is Aaron. Talk to you again soon. Subscribe.